Hi everybody, my name is Monor and welcome back to Page Turners, which is our diverse book club for teens and young adults. Today we're going to be discussing the book Frankly in Love by David Yoon. But before we get started, I'm going to be listing some content and trigger warnings for you right here. And I will say that this review might contain some spoilers, so if you don't want any spoilers, now's your chance to click off the video. Okay, let's get into it. So, Frankly in Love is about our main character, Frank Lee, get it? Who is a first-generation Korean American. He's in the height of his senior year, so we see a lot of talk about the SATs, calculus, college applications, and of course, love. Frank's parents want him to date a Korean girl, and there's two reasons for this. One, because they would prefer that he end up with somebody that is of the same background as them, and two, Frank's older sister, Hannah, ended up marrying someone who was African American, and her parents sort of disowned her for that. However, Frank ends up falling in love with Britt, who's white. It's pretty evident that Frank struggles to balance his two cultures throughout the book. For example, knowing he can't tell his parents that he's dating Britt because it would be catastrophic. But he does note how Britt is able to be so open with her parents about who she's dating. As Frank says a couple times throughout the book, must be nice. He does mention in his inner monologue while he's out to lunch with Britt and her parents that he'll always be seen as Korean first and American second. And I think this statement really stands out to people who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So, every month, Frank's parents and a couple of other Korean families get together and have what they call a gathering. This is kind of their parents' way to keep in contact with one another and see how everyone's doing since they all immigrated to the States around the same time. Frank and the other teens who tend to be at these gatherings all call themselves the limbos because they don't really see each other outside of gatherings. One of those limbos is Joy's Song, and she's in a very similar predicament to Frank. Joy is dating Woo, who's Chinese American, and she knows that she can't tell her parents that because their relationship would also be frowned upon. And to solve this issue, drumroll please, Frank and Joy decide to fake date. We love a good fake dating trope, don't we, everybody? They can continue to see the people that they want to see, and their parents think that they're dating, and they're happy in the fact that they are two Korean teenagers dating each other. In the few months that he's been dating Britt, Frank thinks he loves her, but he ends up realizing that he really loves Joy. And so both of our main couples break up, and Frank and Joy begin dating shortly after that. And they both realize that having a similar background makes dating each other way easier. Unfortunately, we find out that Frank's dad gets shot at the store that he owns and operates. And it makes Frank realize that he doesn't really know much about his dad and how he grew up in Korea. He says that his dad's English isn't great and Frank's Korean is not good at all. So it's been hard for them to effectively communicate with one another. Once his dad is on the mend, things get worse. At a gathering, Frank's dad and Joy's dad end up getting into a really huge argument because of the fact that Joy's dad makes a joke about Frank's dad's lower class compared to the songs, and that sets Frank's dad off. In that chapter, the last 2 pages are basically completely in Korean, and I had to use a translating app in order to kind of figure out the gist of what was said, but there were some racial slurs in there, so if you end up translating and reading them, please be mindful of that. Frank also finds out that his parents have been the butt end of these jokes for years, and he just never knew, and it really upsets him. Obviously, as a result of all this, Frank and Joy are not allowed to see each other, though they do end up dating in secret. And sadly, they end up not dating for much longer because of these differences that their families have and how things fell apart at that gathering, as well as the fact that they'll be heading off to college soon. and Joy ends up breaking up with Frank. But they do keep in touch and they seem to still be really good friends, which is a plus. So it's obvious that this book covers a lot of topics, and I really appreciated the fact that we get a chance to see characters like Frank, Joy, and Q trying to balance their two cultures and two worlds that they're a part of. And not only balancing their cultures, their identities, their societal and familial expectations, and so on. At one point, when Frank and Q are playing video games, Q tells Frank that his other family members don't see his family as being black enough. I think peeling back all these layers of this very complicated onion was done really well, and it really brings in the nuances of race, identity, and privilege. If you decide to check this one out, which you should, I hope y'all have something that you can take away from it at the end of it. We'll see you next time.